Episode 1 Game Art Concept. Welcome, guys. I am LT, and welcome to episode 1. We'll be going over brainstorming, sketching, and vector art in this episode. So let's get started with brainstorming. So, for this Brain Pop game, I looked at a lot of clicker games, pop games, and bubble pop games. And I was just thinking about how could I make a clicker game that was a little bit more advanced than the simple ones that I see. How could I incorporate a timer and a scoreboard and a high score? And I really liked all the games on Scratch. And the Bubble Pop game by Frost Puff gave me a ton of inspiration for the code as well. And in terms of the artwork, I looked online and tried to find artists that I really liked. And I just created a mood board kind of like this. And based on this, I sketched out what I thought I want my game to look like. So this is my actual sketch. And even though I didn't include everything from the sketch in the actual game, it gave me a solid foundation for the vector art. So we're in Scratch now, and for the vector art, I use the circle tool a lot and currently clicking on the reshape tool. So yeah, the reshape tool is super useful. You can really transform any shape into anything you want, depending on how you drag the little dots with the reshape tool. And the line tool is also super useful for thin shapes with edges. And so, yeah, those are the main tools that I used. The circle tool, reshape tool, and the line tool. I do use the paintbrush a little bit, but I like how these tools that we have on Scratch allow us to create more exact shapes because they are generated by the computer. And so I created the raindrop and a popped version of the raindrop for this game. And I basically used these when basically the rain drops from the sky. And then when someone clicks on the raindrop, we will switch the costume to the popped version of the raindrop. Now for the scoreboard, I could have created just any old scoreboard, but I decided to go with the theme of my game. And so I made a cloud looking shape. And then I thought it'd be cool to have the time and score displayed. So this is super easy to make. I just use circles. And that's basically the main assets. And I just set the size with the looks block, and I moved the shapes where I want them to go, and then use the go to X and Y block to make sure they are secured there and that when I click on the green flag, they will be there. And for the time, since this game will have a 30-second timer, I need numbers from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. And I also did create this line thing, that one, but I ended up not using it. But yes, you do need those numbers for the tens place and the ones place. Because we are using numbers for both the time and scoreboard, I labeled my sprites so I don't get confused. So the tens for the time is one sprite, and then ones for time is another sprite. And in terms of the score, I thought that the score might go from 1 to let's say 999. I thought that might be the highest score that is possible. After all, this is a game that's supposed to be played in 30 seconds. And so I decided I will make a ones place, a tens place, and a hundreds place for this game, for the scoreboard. So you can see right now, I'm creating the ones place, tens place, and the hundreds place for the scores, and just placing them and making sure that they look good and they are evenly spaced out. And there you go. That's basically the main assets. I think that when you guys are creating your game and you are thinking about what kind of game art concept you want, you can think of something totally different. It doesn't have to look like this at all. So think about what you like and think about how you can take this template that I'm showing you to create something that is uniquely yours. So right now I'm drawing a bush, and all of these game assets are based on my initial sketch, and I highly recommend that you also do a sketch because it's really, really useful. And when you sketch with your hands, just freely with a pencil or pen on a piece of paper, you can be really free and loose in the way you think about the game. And I think that's super important when you're starting out with the game development. So here we have 3 bushes. And now I'm gonna draw a mushroom. And for the mushroom, I'm just using the circle tool and the rectangle tool and using the reshape tool to just make it look more like a mushroom. And the mushroom is pretty easy to draw. And so if you recall in my sketch, I also had some more complicated shapes, but I ended up just focusing the ones that I can do immediately, and then I could always come back to the more complicated ones later if I really wanted to. I also want to point out that with the reshape tool, you can add additional points to any shape so that you can shape it more exact to what you want. And that's exactly what I'm doing with the leaf here. And with the leaf, I thought I would add more details, but I ended up thinking I just want this to be in the shadow. So I put it in the back layer. And yeah, that's basically the leaf. And the only kind of insect or animal that I added for this game are snails because they're fairly easy to draw. So as you can see, I'm using the circle tool, playing around with the fill and the outline to create this snail. And yes, the reshape is quite important for the snail, moving around the little dots and also the lines. And I did use the paintbrush just for one part of the snail there and also the mouth, as you can see. And I made 2 costumes. So later, if I decide to move the snail, I would have 2 snails to use. And I thought, one snail is kind of lonely. So they basically duplicated that snail and I changed the colors a little bit. And I wanted to change the direction. But when I did -90, it went completely, it flipped over. And so it's really important to set the rotation to left to right when you want a character to flip, flip, um, not horizontally but vertically. So make sure to set rotation style to left to right if you want to do what I'm doing. Of course, you might not do this, but if you do, it's important to know if you ever want to make your character look like it is looking to the left and the right. And here we are, just almost done here with all our assets. So that basically concludes episode 1. We went over everything from the brainstorming, we went to sketching and the vector art. And I'm so excited to learn more about what you guys did with your game art concept. So don't forget to tag Ottiya_global on Twitter and share your game art concept. And I am super, super excited to see it. And I'll see you guys in the next episode where we will really get started with the coding. All right, guys, thanks for joining me today. And see you guys next time. Bye, guys.